Welcome back for another deep dive. We've got a great one lined up for you today. This one comes straight from a listener question.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, and it's a good one, too. What are the signs a woman really wants to be with you? And they sent in some fascinating sources for us to dig into.
I was just looking these over.
Right, a total mix, right. Like we've got bird analogies somehow, ancient philosophy.
Yeah, and some of it's almost poetic, too, the relationship advice.
I know. I was surprised.
Yeah. But don't worry, we've got this. We've boiled it all down to the key points. I think the listeners will be surprised, really surprised, at how these seemingly random ideas all connect.
I'm intrigued already.
It gives you a much deeper understanding of what makes relationships tick, you know what I mean?
For sure. One of the first things that jumped out at me was this idea of going beyond just the surface level, Like it's not just about looks.
Right.
It's got to be more than that. The sources really emphasize this desire to understand who you are, like on a deeper level.
Yeah, exactly. The sources all point to this. If someone really wants to be with you, they're going to be intensely curious about you.
Totally.
The whole picture, not just the good parts. They'll ask about your dreams, what are you afraid of, past experiences, even the little, everyday things.
And I love how one source put it. They said it's not about just asking questions to be polite. It's about actually wanting to hear the answer.
Right. There's a huge difference there.
Huge
Going
difference.
through the motions. Right. Or being genuinely engaged. Big difference.
Exactly.
That's a critical point. All the sources seem to agree that genuine interest, that's key. And it's more than just listening patiently while you talk. It's about actively engaging, remembering the details, maybe even, offering support or encouragement based on what they learn about you.
I was really struck by how they emphasized that it's not enough for someone to be interested in your thoughts and feelings. Like they should show concern for your well-being too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Physically and emotionally.
That's a great point. It really speaks to a level of investment that goes beyond just wanting to hang out, right?
For sure.
Like they're thinking about your happiness and well-being as a part of the whole relationship picture, not just their needs,
Totally.
They want to see you thrive.
Okay, now for the part that I was a little confused about at first.
Okay.
The bird analogy.
Oh, yeah.
One source. They compared a controlling partner to someone clipping a bird's wings.
It's pretty out there.
Right. At first I was like, what?
I know. It's a striking image, right? But when you think about it, it makes sense. Basically, they're saying relationships, like birds, they need freedom to really flourish. Someone who really cares about you, they're going to encourage your growth, right? They'll support your dreams, even if it means you're both exploring different things sometimes. They won't try to hold you back or,
Clip your wings.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's about giving each other space to evolve and grow while still being there to support each other.
Yeah, exactly. And that leads us to another interesting thing, the Stoic philosophy part.
Oh, yeah. Not really what you'd expect when we're talking about modern relationships.
I know, right?
That one really threw me for a loop, especially when the source started talking about Stoicism in terms of sex and beauty.
Right. It does seem like an odd fit at first glance.
Yeah.
But when you get down to the basics of Stoicism, it actually makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
It all boils down to focusing on what you can control, your thoughts, your actions.
Gotcha.
It's about inner strength and not being swayed by, just fleeting passion or just the superficial stuff.
Okay, so how does that tie into choosing a partner who really wants to be with you?
Well, if we take those Stoic principles and we kind of apply them to relationships, it suggests that someone who is truly invested in you won't be driven by just the superficial stuff, right? Or what they can get from you. They'll be drawn to, like your character, your values, what makes you you.
I like that.
More than just the surface level stuff.
That's insightful. It's about seeking a connection that goes beyond that initial spark.
Yeah.
It's got to be rooted in something deeper.
Exactly. And that leads us to another key takeaway from all this material. It's about paying attention to actions, not just words,
Oh, for sure.
Anybody can say, oh, I care about you.
Right.
But how they actually show up.
Yeah.
That's what really matters.
Actions speak louder than words.
That's it. The sources really emphasize this. Look beyond those grand gestures or just saying, I love you.
Right.
Focus on how someone treats you day to day.
Yeah, consistency.
Exactly. One of the sources had a great example about apologies and promises.
Oh, interesting.
It's easy to say, I'm sorry, right?
Yeah.
Or I promise I'll change. But those words mean nothing if there's no action behind them.
Right. Like if someone keeps apologizing for the same thing over and over, but they don't actually change their behavior,
You got it.
it's kind of red flag.
Huge red flag. They're just empty words at that point.
Exactly.
Look for that consistency.
Yeah.
If they're really committed, their actions will show it. Even if they mess up sometimes. We all do. But it's that overall pattern.
It makes sense. It all goes back to trust, right?
Yes.
If someone keeps breaking their promises, you lose trust.
It's hard to rebuild that.
So hard.
One of the sources compared trust to a house built on solid ground.
Okay.
It takes time, consistency to build that foundation.
And without that, the relationship is going to crumble eventually.
Exactly. No matter how strong that initial spark was.
Right.
I think what we're seeing here is this theme of authenticity, finding someone who's not pretending. They're being themselves, flaws and all them.
I love that. So how do we find these genuine people? What are the signs?
Well, the sources actually talked about jealousy.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And they said that jealousy, when it's expressed in a healthy way, it can actually be a sign of insecurity, not possessiveness.
Wait, hold on. I always thought of jealousy as a bad thing.
I know it gets a bad rap.
How could it be a good thing?
It's not that jealousy is good, but like the reason behind it,
Okay.
if someone's expressing jealousy in a healthy way, it could mean they care a lot and they're afraid of losing you.
I see.
They're being vulnerable.
So it's more about how they express it.
Exactly.
Like, is it coming from a place of insecurity or are they trying to control me?
Yeah, exactly. We all have insecurities, right? It's about how we handle those insecurities. That says a lot.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's not about finding someone who's perfect, right?
Yeah.
It's about finding someone who's self-aware and willing to work on themselves.
And honest.
Yeah, and approaches the relationship honestly.
It's about those imperfections. We're all works in progress.
This deep dive has been so eye-opening. Like, I have a totally new perspective on relationships now. But before we move on, there's one more thing from the source material that I found really interesting, this idea of embracing change, you know?
Oh, yeah. The sources were big on that. Change is inevitable, right?
Yeah.
In ourselves and in our partners. And being willing to adapt, that's true maturity.
It's not about finding someone who's going to stay the same forever.
Right.
It's about finding someone who's going to grow with us.
Yeah, through all the ups and downs.
Like to team.
Exactly. Life's a journey, right? We're always evolving. And a healthy relationship, it has to be able to accommodate those changes,
Okay.
support each other's growth, even when it takes you in different directions.
I love that. It's about finding someone who's not scared of what's next.
Yeah.
Someone who's open to new things and who wants to go on this adventure, this life together, even with all the twists and turns.
That's it. It's about finding someone who's there for the journey, not just the destination.
Right.
Someone who you can laugh with, cry with.
I'm really starting to understand what it takes to build a strong relationship now. But there's one last piece I want to make sure we get to.
The emotional intelligence part.
You read my mind.
Yeah.
The sources talked a lot about how important that is, especially for romantic relationships. Why is that so important?
That's a great question. So emotional intelligence, it's basically being able to understand and manage your own emotions, but also other people's emotions.
Right.
It's about empathy, compassion.
So it's not just about knowing how I feel.
Right.
It's about understanding how my partner feels, so to
Yes.
say.
And being able to put yourself in their shoes.
Even if I don't agree with them.
Exactly. And then responding in a way that's supportive. Understanding, not trying to fix it, just being there for them.
I can see how that's super important.
If you can't communicate and understand each other's feelings, you're going to have a lot of problems.
Yeah, miscommunication, arguments.
Exactly. Think of it like the glue that holds a relationship together.
Okay.
It helps you get through those tough times, work through disagreements, and build a strong connection.
Wow. This is all making so much sense now.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just about finding someone who, checks all the boxes,
Right.
but someone you really connect with emotionally.
Yeah.
Someone you can really talk to, honestly,
Yeah.
and grow with over time.
That's it. One of the things that really stood out to me from these sources was it's not just about the relationship itself.
Oh, interesting.
It's also about the environment you create around it.
What do you mean by that?
Well, they talked about how important it is to surround yourself with people who lift you up.
Okay, yeah.
Not just in romantic relationships, but like in life.
It's like that saying, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Exactly. The people around you, they have a huge influence
For sure.
on your thoughts, your feelings. If you're always around negative people, it's going to drag you down, you know?
Yeah.
But if you're around people who are supportive, encouraging, it's like fertile ground for love to grow. You know what I mean?
I get it.
Yeah.
So it's not enough to just find the right partner.
Right.
You need to have a good support system, too.
Friends, family, people who will be there for you.
And on the flip side, I guess it means letting go of relationships that aren't good for you anymore.
That's a great point. And the sources mention that too. Sometimes we hold on to relationships because we're scared to let go, even if they're not healthy.
Yeah, I've been there.
It could be a friendship, family, even a romantic relationship.
Like staying in a job you hate just because you don't know what else is out there.
Exactly. Sometimes you got to take that leap of faith.
Yeah.
Trust that something better is waiting.
Put yourself first.
It's about being around people who bring out the best in you.
I love that. This has been such a great conversation. I feel like I have a whole new way of thinking about relationships.
Me too.
Not just romantic ones, all of them.
Yeah, it's not just about finding the right people. It's about becoming the right person yourself.
And creating the right environment.
Exactly.
So relationships are complex, we know that.
For sure.
But it really comes down to finding those connections that make you feel good.
The ones that support you, inspire you to be better.
I like that. It's a good reminder that we all have a responsibility to bring our best selves to our relationships, too.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. It's a two-way street.
Give and take.
You got to have that mutual respect, trust.
That desire to grow together.
Couldn't have said it better myself. It's about finding those connections that, light you up.
Yeah.
The ones that make you feel seen, understood, remind you that you're not alone.
Well, I think that about wraps it up for our deep dive today. We covered a lot, those little signs to look for, the importance of emotional intelligence.
Creating that support system.
And remember, this is just the start. Keep learning. Keep growing.
The world of relationships, it's a big one, but you can find the connections you're looking for.
And we're here to help along the way. So keep sending in those questions.
We love hearing from you.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We'll see you next time for another one.